Ibra di testa, Tonali, gol! Sandro! Meritato! Sandro! Gol!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Talgrove.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. We got a full house today. We'll start with Madison.
Yeah, excited to be here. We got a mix of the A and B team here. So, Steph,
Am I the leader of the B team?
you are, and I just
Okay,
love
nice.
to say that because that's what we say in the chat.
Okay,
So.
fair enough. Welcome. I'm happy to be back. It's been a couple of weeks now, probably near about a month. But yeah. Let's recap a win and a loss. But yeah, exciting times to go into the international break.
Good to have an even ratio as well of English and American today, and I'm roping you into being English, Stefano, because, you know, when the World Cup comes around, we know what you'll be.
Canadian?
So, yeah, probably. Yeah. But as Stefano said there, we've got a couple of games to recap, and we don't have any games to preview because the international break is upon us. Kind of sad that we have to enter the international break with a defeat, but it is what it is. Chance to recharge the batteries and everything. But before we dive into the Napoli game that happened last night, we must first talk about our first win at home in the Champions League. So yes, Milan won their first Champions League home game in 9 years and 1 day. For those of you who, it's actually, I can't believe it's been nearly a decade, but for those of you who have good memories, you'll remember back to us beating Celtic 2-0 during the 2013-14 season, a goal from Zapata and a goal from Sully Muntari. 9 years and 1 day later, we finally get another San Siro success in the Champions League. It came against Dinamo Zagreb, who were the group leaders going into this particular fixture, having beaten Chelsea 1-0 at home in the first round of group stage action. We beat them 3-1. It's kind of tough to remember all the vivid details of the game when we're still stewing over, obviously, the game that happened last night. But before we dive into the individual goals, I think it is worth remarking that that this was actually quite a good game of football for a start. Even though Dinamo Zagreb came to play with a low block, as we thought that they might do, and they came to play on the counter-attack, we managed the game pretty well overall, and we certainly limited their attacking output by elapsing concentration in the second half. And it was just a case of biding our time, I guess, and probing for that opening. But I thought it was a job pretty professionally done.
Yeah, I didn't think anyone was assuming we wouldn't win. I can't remember, was Giroud's pen in the first half or right after halftime?
Yeah, right at the end of the first half.
Okay.
Yeah, we went into halftime 2-0 up, I
1-0
think.
Would have been
Right?
one. Yeah, because Salmaker's, his header was right after halftime. I couldn't remember if they both were after or not, but yeah. I mean, I think their XG was like 0.2, something low like that, and ours was like almost 3 even. So as far as offensive output, we definitely dominated that aspect of the game. As far as all of the other statistics, I think we dominated. I don't think there was ever a moment where we were really like worried, you know. I mean, obviously they made it 2-1 at one point in our favor still, but even then, like, I wasn't afraid at 2-1. I felt pretty comfortable going into the game and really throughout the entire game. I think bleeding into Giroud's penalty, I was wondering, like, okay, when's the goal coming? Like, are we going to have one of those games? Because we had so many shots, and it just didn't seem like anything was going in. But once we broke the deadlock, it was game over.
When they pulled one back, I was like, are we about to drop points in Champions League again? Like, are these players capable of doing it? And then for the second time that game, AJ's agenda had been ruined when Pobega scored a fucking rocket. And I was so happy.
Yeah,
I love how you've taken over that agenda now, and even though it was me who was the first one to come out and say Pobega's not up to it.
I know, yeah. I was like all excited. I was like, oh, we got Pobega. We don't need a Kessie replacement. And then he played one game. I was like, get that fucking guy out of here.
You're like the people who slander CDK on Twitter for being bad.
Carlos. I think Carlos is the only one doing it. And
is
I think
he?
he's doing it
no
ironically,
idea.
but people are too dumb to realize that, and they're jumping on. And that's driving me insane, by the way. But anyways, back to this game. Salmaker's had an incredible goal. It was a beautiful header. That's 2 Champions League games in a row that he's scored. He's third now.
Second top scorer in the
joint second, yeah.
joined second, and I think there's 3 people joined first. So
he's in
it's
similar.
Like Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi are tied.
He's with players he belongs to be with now. He's with the top tier of European players and clientele.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. He's still Salamakers. All right.
I bet you will score against Chelsea. Yeah. Yes. I mean,
if he does, I will never slander the guy again until he pisses me off too much.
Get that on record.
Right. I definitely dropped my agenda. But I dropped my agenda, and even going into the Napoli game, which we'll get to, I thought he looked pretty solid as well. But outside of a few passes, like there was one to CDK that would have had him through on goal, but he just played it short. But anyways, back to Zagreb. And then Pobega had a fucking screamer as well. It was kind of the same as the Kaluga one that didn't go in against Napoli, except this one did go in. So
the underside of the crossbar.
Yeah,
angles. But I think it was a bit of their low block in the first half was a bit of a pain because they just weren't coming out of it. And Orsic and who's the other one? Is it Petkovic up front? They were just willing to go on a counter attacks. It was very frustrating. It was one of them ones where probably going into half time, if we weren't being 1-0 up, it was going to be all right. This is going to go on and go on and go on, and they're just going to frustrate us. But a bit of stupidity from their defender, really going in a bit bluntly against Rafa and gets the penalty, which changes the game on its head. And there's me thinking that, are they going to open up a little bit more? And that goal was just beautiful, the second one. And then, Orsic scores, 56th minute I've got here. But that's where I think the mentality thing is for how this team has evolved. I think at 2-1, the old Milan, a team maybe a year and a half ago would have crumbled under that. What do we do now? Do we sit on the 2-1? Do we sort of wait? The approach was still the same. It was still to do the high press. It was still to dominate the game into their half and not just sort of like count down the clock. And I think we hit it the right way. And then the substitutions once again with Pioli were correct, and Pobega got a goal, which is great for his confidence. But I was really happy with the result. See 3 points on the board. We're now first place, joint first, I think. No, not joint first.
No,
first, right, top,
because Salzburg drew to Chelsea, which now we go into the Chelsea games back to back with them just sacking their coach. It's going to be all sort of all pumps to the accelerator after the international break. But I was really happy with the result. But we'll probably look at standout players from that game. But Leao, he got 90 minutes in his legs because he was suspended for the Napoli game, which we'll come on to. So that was a good chance for him to obviously, add his contribution to the attack, which he did because he got the penalty. He got the assist for the Salamaker's goal, which is, a brilliant move all round. And really happy with the result.
It was a big result. I mean, as mentioned, sort of leading into it, it's been such a long time since we won a home Champions League game. Obviously, there's a big absence involved in that. We were 7 years outside of the competition. But then you think about those games last season, for example, Liverpool and Atletico Madrid, we led those games and for one reason or another emerged having lost it. And then the Porto game, they really stung us. We perhaps went into that game thinking we must target 3 points here. And they rocked us with their intensity. This was a bit of a different examination, I think it'd be fair to say. We saw with how they played against Chelsea that they were going to be tough to break down. They're well drilled. I think there's something to be said as well about teams that are so dominant domestically that they just carry on that confidence into Europe. Salzburg have not been beaten in the first 2 games in the Champions League. They're smacking everything in sight in the league, let's be honest. Zagreb and Salzburg, for that reason, are able to rotate players in the league because they've already built up a cushion, and therefore that means they can throw absolutely everything into these games and leave no regrets out on the field. But, we did pass the examination. That's the main thing. It's always about just finding a way against those teams that look to sit back and frustrate. And I must admit, for all the different approach play that we tried for those first 44 minutes, spreading the ball wide and trying low crosses, high crosses, playing directly down the middle. I found it interesting that it was a ball from Tomori that he just pinged into the feet of Leao that caused them to make that lapse in judgment. And no arguments with the penalty for me. He just clipped him straight up, didn't get the ball. He had to award a penalty for that. Giroud stepped up, took it. He's now scored 24 out of 25 penalties in his career, which is absolutely incredible, really. He's a guarantee from 12 yards. And
is there anyone else with a higher turnover percentage right now? Like, I don't think so.
Probably not. Among active penalty takers, I mean, I guess you'd have to filter it by those who've taken 10 plus, 20 plus.
Right, yeah.
So there's nobody who's 3 out of 3 or whatever. But it's remarkable. It's a great record. I mean, we know Ibra as the man who, up until his bad recent run of penalties with us, was the guy who was guaranteed from the spot. And it seems to be that it's Ollie G who's the ice cold man. And then going into half time, a goal up, there was a bit of feel good factor, around the stadium. Then it's like, right, we finally got the breakthrough that we were pushing for. And as you guys have mentioned, the second goal was brilliantly worked. It does seem that literally everything is coming down our left side at the moment. So we're back to that kind of dependency issue. But it was an absolutely gorgeous bit of interplay and then a cross from Leao on the left straight onto the head of Salamanca's. What's interesting about Salamanca's 2 goals in the Champions League so far is that they've both come from runs into the centre from the right, which might just seem obvious to people, like, you're going to get more goals if you run centrally. But I think it's a tactical instruction, to be honest. We get the ball down the left so much, why not add him into the mix in and around the penalty spot? So it's almost like having another striker in there, and it's paid dividends. He scored twice, and that's fantastic. And then on their goal, I mean, I don't know where you lads want to put the blame for their goal, to be honest. I've seen people say it was Tomori, inattentiveness, not really reading the 1-2 that was about to happen between Petkovic and Orsic. But for me, there were a lot of players who were stood still and watched the ball get rolled into Petkovic and then allowed him the time to play the ball to an unmarked Orsic. I thought the defending generally as a unit was pretty poor there. And it's all right doing that against Dinamo Zagreb because they're not going to hurt you as much if you give them 6 or 7 of those chances. They're not going to put them all away, whereas the better teams will find those gaps. If we do that against Chelsea, if we have the same lapses of concentration like we did against Napoli last night, they'll make us pay for that. So that's a little bit of food for thought. And then, I'm buzzing for Pobega. I saw him and Calabria celebrate that goal, and it just made me think that is the realisation of a dream for them, having come through the club's academy. Pobega's been on a hell of a journey. He's been on loan in the 3rd tier, 2nd tier, 2 loans in 2 other Serie A clubs, and then to mark, your first goal for the club to seal a win at San Siro in the Champions League was massive. So
I bet AJ loved that site. 2 Primavera kids. AJ loves the Primavera. Yeah. 2 of his favorite Milan players celebrating together.
But that's the only reason why they're there, aren't they? Because they're Primavera players. It's not because they're good. I mean, that's what I'm reading
just
online.
For the squad list.
Oh, I was like, damn, Steph, okay.
I think it's just for their Italian citizenship.
I'll say it how it is. I've heard the goal came down Calabria's side, so no one else plays down that right flank. It's just Calabria. It's not Salamakers. It's not Benacer. It's not Kalulu. It's just Calabria's side, by the way, defensively. So any goal that comes down that right side is automatically his fault. And we'll come on to the Napoli game as well, because he did a fantastic job against Cababella, whatever his name is.
Minus the yellow card he got against him.
Yeah, minus the yellow card, but Jesus, like
yellow cards are
how many right backs get yellow cards against Rafael Leao? Like, sometimes these players just have to get it because they have to do a tactical foul.
No, he did have a really good game, but we'll get there.
And we also found out he had the muscle injury. That's why it had to come off. But he was great against him, and you got what you wanted, and Des came on and he gave away the penalty. But we'll come on to that because I love to talk about that in a bit time. Yeah. But great to see Calabria and Pobega celebrate because yes, they are Primavera players, and yes, they do have a bit of quality. They're not the best players in their position in the world, but they are good, and they are good enough for this side right now. I'm so happy for them. They're really enjoying their football, and some of you lot online really need to sort of
get alive
right now.
Yeah,
get alive. Yes.
And,
you know what it is to me.
To be fair,
on our Twitter account.
No one knows. No one cares what I have to say. They don't even know who I am. So
that is true.
I'm not even sure who you are, to be honest. AJ just
I don't even know who I am.
We just hire a model to join the podcast every once in a while.
That can't be me.
I mean, Calabria obviously is captain. He's always going to be called up, and rightfully so, because we know who we have as right back, and with Florenzi out, like, he is the clear number 1 choice. I do think Pobega being in the Champions League squad list does have to do with being a homegrown talent. I mean, you need a certain amount, and that's probably why Adley was left out, because Pobega doesn't take away a spot. So
100%.
I do think that played in a little bit, but the rest of what you said, absolutely, I totally agree with you.
I mean, the question is: are these players? And this is a side thing here, but this is something that's worthy to be talked about because there's an agenda, in my opinion, right now. Are these players good enough to be at Milan right now?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Then what's the problem?
Yeah.
What's the problem? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do we have prime Cafu sitting on the bench that Calabria's taken the spot up of? Do we have prime Gattuso sitting on the bench who Pobegga's taken the spot of? I just don't get it anymore. But
Yeah,
I'm not.
I do think
don't
that
understand
long
it.
term they probably do need to be replaced. However, there's
of course.
there's positions that need to be replaced before them. Like
Exactly.
I
No,
think
but
Calabria
also
is low
they're
in the
good
pecking
squad
order. Don't
depth.
get me wrong.
They're,
and I agree.
They're not starting. It's not like we
I
have
agree.
world beaters on the bench that they're starting over.
And we're not churning out fucking great players from the Primavera anyway to be taking up these spots, which you can't have 25 players in Europe who are all foreign and not come from. That we have to have players from our.
But it doesn't mean all grievances are wrong. There's a lot that are hyperbolic and there's a lot that are just throwing blame. But there are real reasons to say this.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. But everyone's making mistakes. Everyone can make mistakes.
Yeah,
and
no,
I saw a great thing. If that was Calabria who missed that thing against that crossbar shot against
he
Napoli,
makes a lot more mistakes than Kalulu.
I mean, recently,
yeah,
I don't know.
No, and honestly, Calabria has hit those shots so many times that I think if he would have missed this one, I don't think people would have gotten on his back.
They would have. Steph's right about that. 100% they would have.
100% they would have.
And to be fair, he probably would have scored that because those are the goals that he scores.
But also, you can't really get mad at a defender for missing a shot. Like it is what it is.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I do agree with Steph saying that. However, I do think the players that make less mistakes get more leeway when they do make one versus the players that make more mistakes.
Credit in the bank. It's the credit in the bank.
Exactly.
Yeah,
of course.
And I'll tell you something. I know this sounds absolutely mental, but I was kind of relieved to see people not digging Tomori out, but highlighting the errors that Tomori's made in recent games.
Yeah, because he's been untouchable lately.
Yeah, and I want him, obviously, as a fellow Englishman and all that, to be our best player by a mile and to be like a constant source of pride and stuff. But having seen what appears to be a pretty clear agenda against some of the academy product players, it was nice just to see a bit of fairness in the criticism. Mm-hmm. And everybody, like, you make a mistake, it gets called out, no matter who it is, no matter what. Yeah. There's this whole Benacer v Tonali thing going on with certain sections of the fan base, like
which makes no sense.
Who makes more mistakes? Well, they're playing together, so it doesn't fucking matter. We'd rather neither of them make mistakes, to be honest. Yeah, really strange, but it is what it is. I mean, this is perhaps a good thing in a sense because before in 2013 through to 2019 or whatever, what we had was apathy. People didn't really care. It was just who made the funnier mistakes. Whereas now it's like the level's so high. That,
I was going to say the level's higher.
Yeah,
it's the expectation's higher, and then 100%. You don't want to see mistakes, but we're not going into markets with 100 billion euros to spend. We're just really at the infancy of really getting back to where we should be. I think you just need a bit of perspective to this. It's easy to sit back on your armchair and critique some players for some mistakes. They're going to make mistakes, but so do other teams' players make mistakes.
No, but at the same time, I mean,
they're not fucking robots, man. Jesus,
you have to hold the players accountable. Like I agree with everything that you're saying, but you can't just like let players make mistakes and not say anything about it, because then you end up where U.S. soccer is and they fucking suck. So
we saw how that worked out for us.
Yeah,
but in a regular basis, at least one player is going to make a mistake in a game of football. Like the game before against Sam, what the fuck was? I mean, even the bicycle kick from Rafa, even I knew going into that half, just don't do something stupid. That's the sort of shit that Ibra would do and get sent off in his first time.
Yeah.
Balotelli, like, why are you doing that? And then you put that's a mistake.
He's like 22, man. He's so young.
But
Pioli said he told him at halftime, like, chill out. Like
Calabria, Salamakers, they're all the same. What, 23?
Okay,
25.
A defensive tackle and getting a yellow card is different than doing a bicycle kick in the box and kicking someone in the face.
Yeah, but the guy was behind him. He didn't see him. I mean,
but it's still different. Okay,
Look,
a tactical tackle on defense is different than doing a bicycle in the box. A bicycle in the box is needed 1% of the time.
The thing about that though is if he connects with the ball, it's not a card, and it's a shot. You know, it's like, all right, he had the right to play that ball, but because he missed, that's why.
I hear one
that's like
thing.
a tackle though. That's like if I connect with the ball instead of the guy's leg because my timing's bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll give
that's
you
what
one
I'm saying.
thing.
Yeah,
as
but
well
a bicycle kick is just it's so.
I'm not saying he should have taken the kick. I'm just saying I understand why he did.
I'll let you chat because I think I've peeled us off on a tangent, and I'm not saying any of these players are like fucking.
Yeah, you missed the Sampdoria podcast. It was last week.
Burn them at the stake. Yeah, it's not Sam. I'm not saying burn any of these players at the stake, but players make mistakes. It happens, and I know some players might have a few more than others, but doesn't mean we have to come like consistently just shit on them on a regular basis because these are the players that represent our club. Like.
Some of them are actually fans of the club as well.
I'll end it by saying there is definitely an agenda, and people might think I'm coming out and defending players because I think that they have an agenda. No, I shouldn't have to come out and defend these players because you should back them because they're good enough for the team right now. If you don't see that, then you're delusional. You're delusional, and you just seem to highlight and have tunnel vision to their mistakes when they make it, and ignore the others when they do make mistakes. And
there is a lot of tunnel vision, 100%.
Well, that's the
people
nature
you
of
like and don't like.
fans on social
no
media,
more. I will speak no more of it, and I won't even talk about Calabria's Dest's mistake because that can happen against Calabrella, what his name is. But how do you say his name? Carver.
Kvaratskhelia.
Is
how I learned it from Adam Summerton, who was on commentary last night and did a good job. So I now know how to pronounce that moving forward. Just on the Leao overhead kick thing, something that I thought about after we recorded last week. He did the same thing against Atletico Madrid and hit the bar, and it has literally ended up on every compilation that he's ever been involved in, even though it didn't result in a goal. So, of course, he was going to try it again at some point. However, as Hannah Montana said, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. So now we can move on to...
Is that Hannah Montana?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But
now we can move
so we're going to end up on...
flops.
Okay, yeah, we're going to finish.
We'll do tops and flops. I'll start by giving my top. This is quite, I guess, obvious, but I'm going to go with Leao. He was absolutely electric. Yeah. He was involved in pretty much everything that was good moving forward. Absolute sixpence assist for Alexis Salamakers for the second goal. Won the penalty. Yeah, it's Rafa. I think he needed a coming-of-age performance in the Champions League at home that resulted in a win. He did it kind of against Atletico Madrid last season, but yeah, he was superb.
I'm gonna say this because I said it last week, and I don't foresee myself saying it much ever again in the future. Alexis Salamakers. I think his header was brilliant. It was a fantastic header. A goal that I literally called my girlfriend. I was like, I cannot fucking believe this shit. Like, look at this. And I was like,
the build-up play for that goal was so good, wasn't it? Like,
yeah. It was just a beautiful goal. Yeah. So I'm picking him.
Salamakers would be the easy choice. Pobega would be the hard choice, and he's be my man of the match because he scored the go-ahead goal.
Did he even play the full game? Like how many minutes?
No, he played like 30 minutes, but he scored a rocket of a shot.
Great moment as well.
That means I don't have to pick Salamakers for 2 weeks in a row. So
yeah, good point. Yeah,
fair enough. I'm gonna go for Leao as well. I think we spoke about it in the first half. He was really struggling to kind of get that space. Some of the shot selections were pretty poor, but he still, with a bad half, he still managed to get the penalty, which that's the levels of the player right now. He can have a bad half to our accord and still contribute something very important to the side. In the second half, he just blew it all up completely with that amazing assist. But yeah, he's on 6 assists so far this season. The guy's literally he's like Dwayne Wade of football, like bucking up, and then Giroud's LeBron.
Yeah,
anyway.
The LeBron James of football, Olivier Giroud.
Well, the ages are probably the same, isn't it?
that thing about Jerry Cardinale going into the dressing room after we beat Inter in the derby and saying you're like the LeBron James of football or something is apparently what he said.
That has to be fake.
Yeah, it must be, but that's what Gazzetta said that he said. But yeah, I don't know. I just hope that didn't happen.
Or he's making a joke because they know about the Pioli. That's got to be it, because that's a meme at this point.
Yes, yeah. Flop of the match, Brahim Diaz. He didn't assert himself. I mean, I picked it out in the key battles. They were obviously just going to pin that same number 6. I think it was Misic who actually managed to keep Chelsea fairly quiet. Thought this would not be a good game for Brahim Diaz. Deep, low, compact block, not much space to operate in. They're physical. They were going to get stuck into him. He didn't do well. So, yeah. But I feel sorry for him. He was put in a situation where he couldn't succeed. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm going to take the easy way out because I genuinely don't remember the bad performances from this game. So I'm looking at who had the lowest rating, and I'm going CDK.
Oh,
he had a 5.9 according to FotMob. So
that's Junior Macias.
What does he have?
5.7.
Does he?
He can't.
Can you really pick up
Macias.
Macias.
Oh, okay. They came off the bench then, huh?
You can't do
Macias only played 12 minutes. CDK.
Bloody hell, that's harsh.
Yeah, I'm not picking Macias. I'm picking CDK.
He should have made it 4.
Because
CDK played the same amount of time as Pobega. You picked him as man of the match, so I could pick him as worst of the match.
You're right.
You're right. I know.
Still harsh though.
Kick.
Diaz.
I think he got a card though, didn't he?
Who? CDK.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
I don't know, probably, but yeah. I'm gonna go. Yeah, wrap it up. I'm gonna go Diaz. We spoke. I mean, I know Lorenzo hates him. I'm not his biggest fan, and I think you're right.
Who does Lorenzo like?
There's no reason to pick CDK. His stats are immaculate. There just aren't many. It's like 1 of 1 on everything.
But yeah, I think we're going to talk about Diaz. He's great off the bench. He's really good off the bench. Yep. He changed the game against Napoli. We'll come on to, but he needs. But the thing is, this is Pioli's issue now with games every 3-4 days. Squad that we're still trying to get players back. I know people want to see Adley play a little bit more. Maybe we might see that going forward. But certainly Diaz should not be. He's not starting game material. He's good off the bench because the midfielders are more lethargic at that point. But yeah, Diaz flop of the match.
Yeah, that's it until we come back and do the Chelsea double header back to back. I mean, we're top of the group. We're 3 points clear of Chelsea headed into those 2 fixtures, which I think is better than we could have hoped for. The Zagreb v Salzburg games back to back will be interesting to see who is actually superior out of those 2. I think that Salzburg could win both of those games, and then that might make things interesting between us and Chelsea. But yeah,
we're going to that game, Ollie.
We are indeed. Game. We managed to get tickets, so I'm buzzing for that one. Potter Masterclass to be dropped on Pioli's
anyone who's going, meet up, have a few jars for the game.
I wonder where that was going then.
Meet
up. Potter's magic wand. Right, yeah, move on, shall we, to Napoli. So everyone knew going into this game against Napoli on Sunday night at San Siro that it was probably the game of the season so far in Serie A. Obviously, we'd played the derby, but that was in the 4th round, and we didn't really know how that one was going to go. But we were the early pace setters along with Napoli and Atalanta. Both teams had 14 points from their opening 6 games. And I guess before we dive into the key incidents within the game, I just want to say, having slept on this game and having slept on this performance, as angry as I was going to bed last night and as gutted as I was that we'd lost this game, I've woken up feeling a lot more zen about it. I think the performance was really good. On another day, we potentially win that 3-1 or something like that. That's the way football is. It is a game of centimetres. We hit the bar twice. And I think the main thing was we were all interested to know how we would cope without Leao, who was suspended for the game. And the answer for me was that we actually played a more team-oriented game. And I know Maddie highlighted that before we started recording, so I'm not going to steal his point on that. But I was just impressed. I thought we were really good. We pressed high, we were aggressive, we were fearless, tenacious. We challenged them for every ball. We didn't let their midfield overrun us at all. We actually limited the influence of Kvaratskhelia a fair bit, aside from him drawing 2 yellow cards and the penalty that, again, we'll come on to. But it was a good spectacle. It was a good... Fuck, what? Really?
Yeah.
Pierre Calabria. Yeah. Did he book Dest?
Krunic and Tomori.
Krunic, yeah.
And Kaya.
So 5.
Holy shit.
Yeah, just four.
Yeah.
Is
Tomori
Dest. Tomori got one, but it wasn't because of Calabria. Yeah. Both right backs.
5?
Yeah, so that's 5.
Pierre,
that's 5.
And Krunic.
No, I'm just saying that Cavara caused.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the entire
team.
Cavara 5 yellow cards is still a lot for the entire
That's what I'm saying. The guy's a menace. Like, all props to him. Even though he didn't... I think he had an assist, right? No.
Well,
he didn't assist the Gio one. Yeah, he won the pen. Even though he didn't get on the score sheet,
Tonali didn't get booked, by the way.
Okay.
Tonali didn't. Not Tonali. It was Krunic.
Yeah, Krunic, Kaya, Tomori, Calabria, 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Benacer should have been booked as well. But yeah, that's
Anyways, continue.
It was good.
Anyway,
and it's just that it was a great spectacle for Serie A. And I said that after the derby, and it felt a bit like winners gloating kind of thing. Like, oh, it was an amazing game, and we won. And, you know,
the derby win felt better before they lost this past weekend. Not gonna lie.
Mm.
The derby is one of those ones where like form doesn't really matter. Both teams are going to show up. You know.
Yeah.
But back to Napoli. Was it my turn, or are you still going?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really great game. I had a good time watching it. Last week, I think Ollie and I both predicted a loss. Madison, I think he predicted a draw.
I predicted a 1-1.
Okay. All right. Well, I had a 2-1 loss, and I hate that I'm right. First time this season, by the way. I've been wrong in all my predictions, so woohoo. But yeah, it was just one of those things. I didn't think we would play as well without Leao as we did, so I'm actually pretty happy with that performance. First half, they didn't have a single shot on target. They had one shot total the first half. We really dominated. And going into halftime, it felt like we were going to walk away with it in the second half. Props to whoever Spalletti was on the phone with during halftime, because he came out and they changed performance. Spalletti was obviously suspended, but the camera panned to him a few times and he was on the phone, which we all know happens. Manager suspensions are silly. But anyways, so I thought the Dest penalty was a clear penalty. It was soft, but it was a clear penalty. That happens outside the box. It's not a card. He's not getting called. They might give a free kick. They might not. It's really not that big of an issue, but inside the box, you can't do that. It's a penalty. So it is what it is. Serginho Dust, I'm really upset with him. I wish,
that's good.
You know,
really
you mentioned your pride in Tomori as an Englishman. I really wish I could have had more pride in Dest as an American, but you know, as of right now, he's Dutch to me. So
he's Dutch, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we just talked about, Cavard drew a lot of yellow cards. It was overall they played a great second half of football. I will say I do think Napoli is a very confidence-based team, and having gone on the run that they have, I knew that they were going to be up for it. I really thought when we had the equalizer, it was game over for them. I thought we were going to push and they were going to shut down. I know, Steph, you want to talk about the next goal, so I'll let you do that assessment. But yeah,
it looks like he's not.
They showed up. They turned up.
No, I'm thinking of it. No, I don't think. Look, and I think I did disagreement with Martino on this one. Do they deserve the win? You know, a football's game of moments. I get it, and I understand you take those moments or you miss your moments, and that you know determines the outcome of a result. Of course, it does. But I'm not saying we dominated. I feel we controlled the first half well. I felt like they started off the second half obviously better than us, taking the game towards us. But the reaction from the players, once again, our players, is always fantastic. As soon as we're great when we go a goal behind, because we just wake up and we're like on fucking crack, like taking it to them, fearless, playing on the high press. Like, I'm not saying players that play on crack are any good, but just the first thing in mind. But yeah, anyway, and then the goal was great, beautiful. People want to criticize CDK, but his slip through ball, I know it looks simple, but at the same time, that's what he's there to do. He carves open teams. He doesn't take the extra sloppy touch that Diaz would do, or his pass nonetheless bounces off the ground. It's a clear through ball, and it's just like so simple. Teo, Giroud, easy. And then from that point, it was just like, you know, we had a few sort of half chances, half chances. And their goal comes personally against the run of play. And I'll go into it. It's, you know, the cross comes through from the right to Simeone. Kalulu's one-on-one at that point in the box. And the first thing I said at that moment, I said, do not go into him. Just see him out of the box. And he did that. Great. And then more bodies came around Simeone. I think it was about maybe 3 or 4 shirts, including...
it was Benacer Tonali.
Yeah, Benacer Tonali. And I think there was one more player in and around that sort of that region around him.
It was just Kalulu.
One of you close the fucking passing lanes and make him go back to defense or something. Don't leave this gaping hole open. And well, I mean, the hole's open there because we've committed more men in the sort of consolidated midfield, but just don't let him go back out that way where Carver's going to be 2-on-1. And the ball was fantastic. The header was great as well. But I think you can just avoid those goals with a bit more, you know, just there's 4 guys around you, cut the lanes out. It's simple, but it also needs to be done.
Yeah, and my issue with that is, you know, they should have cut that passing line out, absolutely. But when they didn't, they all chased the ball for some reason,
Exactly,
which they knew they were never going to get to him.
Yeah.
They should have just stayed on their man because they were already marking him, and that's
this is where
he
it's
got back
not
in and got the goal.
Kalulu's fault in the it's not Tomori's goal fault Tomori's fault in the goal. It's for me Kalulu. The boxing out was fine at the start. He should have been a bit more pressing outside the box. Didn't do that. But then once he let him off, then the midfielders came around him. Let him go. Go back and help Tomori out, because you need to be aware that there was a 2-3-3-on-1 issue in the box. Then he's chasing shadows, trying to get back in there while the Rui cost comes in, and Tomori doesn't know whether to give or go with the header. So that's not Tomori's fault. Everyone's blaming him. That's Kalulu. But he's young, he's inexperienced, positioning wise. We know he's played at right back before. It's his fault on that issue there, but it's also more of a collaborative team effort where someone's got to get that ball off Simeone. It's so simple, but it happened, and then we'll go on to the end of the game.
You know what? If it's so simple, you should probably be out there doing it.
Well, no, that's what. I'm sorry, Maddie, man, but that's why Pioli's pissed off. When you play a game as good as we played and you come away with a loss, and this is the thing, I'm not going to go at Kalulu should have scored that goal at the end of the game as well, but he did great to start the whole move.
Yeah, he did,
you know, brilliant. Thiago Silva-esque, taking the ball out, you know, aggressive, playing through the lines, and then it comes to him, and he's just, you know, it's just bad luck. Bad luck. He should have scored. Is what it is. But your job is what you're primarily paid to do, and that's defending. And he didn't do that, and the midfielders didn't do that, and that's a mistake. But it's simple. But these are the moments that make us win or lose a game.
Yeah,
simple.
I don't think it's bad luck that he missed it. I mean, the ball goes where you hit it, and he hit it at the crossbar. It is what it is.
Yeah,
now, you can say it's bad luck it didn't bounce in, but I don't know. You take that shot, you got a second. It's great defending on him, and it is what it is.
He was under pressure. He was falling over as well.
Yeah.
Like they're not. You know, I said afterwards, I shouted at the TV, why didn't he slot that low? Because you know that way you're making sure you hit the target. But it's like he's a centre back. You know, he's a centre back. It's high pressure moment, last minute.
He's got a second because the Giroud assist did not look like it was going to get there. It looked soft or like a short pass, and Kim was right there. So Klug took his shot the second he had it. It wasn't perfect, but like Steph said, he's paid to be a defender, not an attacker. So thank you for pushing forward. Thank you for creating an attack. Thanks for taking the shot, but unfortunately you missed it, and we're not going to hold it against you. But you know, you didn't score, and it is what it is.
I mean, look, he missed that late chance away at Juve last season. He missed that. I would say let's put the talks about a pay rise on hold for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, he did score a few last season, a few critical games as well. But...
No, that goal that he scored against Empoli where he side-footed it, ball came to him from the corner and he side-footed it with his weak foot inside the far post. Yeah, fair enough. That
one probably was more luck involved than this miss.
The contract thing was a joke, by the way. Don't take that seriously before I get flamed in the comments. But and one thing I will say, I know it was kind of touched upon. That's a really good header from Giovanni Simeone. Yeah, a real number 9
it was.
header.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. If he gets more on it, it's saved by Mike because it's straight down his throat. He got the deftest touch on it, but that's all it needed to guide it inside the far post.
Speaking of Mike, well, let's talk about that penalty for a second because Mike guessed the right way. He did it perfect. It slipped through him like you see his sleeve move. He was milliseconds away from saving that. I mean,
it's a shame
he dived.
It's a shame because no one's really going at him for the lack of clean sheets that we're getting because it's not. A lot of the goals are, as Kaya likes to say, shit goals to concede. But and he's not really done with any favors. But he deserves a bit more. I do feel like he deserves a few clean sheets in his recent games because he's, you know, there's been a few efforts where you've had to ask for him to do just the minimum of the goalkeeper, and he's done that. You know, I just think
I think we're just realizing we have a young defense, and last year they were in otherworldly form and they're still great, but they're young and they're going to make those mistakes like we talked about. So
I think Ollie, did you say about the rotation changes with getting Kaya in? That's a good point.
I mean, we're playing every 3 games at the moment. Playing every 3 days, 3-4 days at the moment. So we're having to bring Kaya in and rotate, even with Calabria too, you know, and the players not necessarily playing 90 minutes either. For example, yesterday, Kalulu came on at half time. Whereas back end of last season, when we conceded 2 goals in our final 11 league games, it was because it was Tomori and Kalulu all the way, pretty much, you know, and there was nothing to break their rhythm. They gained confidence. They gained momentum as well, and we just felt absolutely invincible. That entire back four, and the double pivot, if anything, was what was rotated quite a bit last season. I think that helped to keep things fresh because they were an important shield in front of the back four. But no massive alarm bells yet at the moment. But I did read that we've already conceded as many goals this season as we did in the entire second half of last season.
Yeah,
I mean, it is what it is. Whatever. It's early. We're starting with a lot of games back to back. I mean, you want to talk about comparisons to last season. Inter only lost 4 games last season. They've lost 3 already. Season before they only lost 3. They've already lost 3. So it's like they're going backwards too. Look, winning a title as an underdog is extremely hard. Defending that title back to back as an underdog is even harder. And how much push do they have? Like, how much of last season was heart in that final stretch to win the 6 games in a row to end the season? And how much of that heart can we continue? Because eventually, it doesn't matter how much heart you have. You're going to run out of steam. And maybe that's what we're seeing now. I mean, we're seeing guys coming back from international duty. Taylor Hernandez already injured. Maybe he just wants to rest. I hope so. Yeah. But you're seeing it a lot. And we knew that was going to be the way this season was going to play out, having half the season take place before November.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
We're not doing bad. Like,
I think we're doing great. We're doing
great. Like, look,
we're the hardest.
I think the rest of the
schedule.
league is also like the teams above us are hitting above their weight.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
But
and this isn't rare from Napoli to start the season so strong in September. They they lose, they start to lose.
Look at the games that they've dropped points in as well. 2 awful home. Well,
Lazio,
1 draw against Lecce.
Yeah. Look, Napoli were in the top. They were in the top 3 title chase to an extent to what the last month and a half.
Up until we beat them. When we beat them, that's when they dropped off.
Yeah, they crumbled. Yeah. So I expect them to be there again. The teams everywhere else, Atalanta, the first 7 games have been DOS, other than playing us, and they're going to go into hard fixtures and they will start to drop points, despite not having Europe. Udinese are on some sort of fucking. Demonic,
they're winning the league for me.
They're smoking crack.
Unbelievable.
They're smoking crack. They're doubling up on the crack. They're great, but once again, it's only a certain amount of time. Then obviously, I don't really factor them. Lazio, they're trash. They will fall off. Roma, Inter, Juventus had memeable weekends as well. So it's kind of we're fine. We're only 3 points off top place. Napoli, 3 points.
1 game.
And that brings me to my main point of this episode. Milanisti, round of applause. Pat yourself on the back. We got through the hardest part of the season already, and we're only 3 points away. I guarantee we do not lose another game in the league between now and the World Cup. Guarantee it. Take it to the bank.
We're going to play provincial sides, like Empoli, like Juventus.
Yeah, we're playing shit teams from here on out. Like, we're good.
Racetrack locations.
You look at the Cinderella team right now. Udinese, everyone's like, they won their last 5. We smoked them 4-2, light work, easy. Fuck these guys.
No, I think we are a side that plays better against. We step up to the level of opposition. We seem to do that in the past. So I'm interested to see however we react to these weaker sides that we're going to play in the coming months. And because we need to certainly do better at that. But you're right. We've gone through a tough 7 games. We've played in the current top, the top 7 right now, 4 of those games from the top 7. So, Napoli, Atalanta, Udinese, and Inter. So going forward, it's seemingly going to get easier. Hopefully, we get some players back from injury. Rebic, Origi, Rafael Leao's just finished his suspension as well. So we've been tested, and in between Champions League fixtures as well. So I'm looking at it with a positive sort of start to the season. Massive.
Yeah. There's no reason to be hanging our heads as fans right now. Like,
only thing would have been the cherry on top would have been to be unbeaten.
Exactly.
Keep that
would have been it. And even then,
I would have taken that draw.
We were on a 22-game league unbeaten streak. That was the longest running in Europe, and I don't know who has it now, but now we get to start that over. Now we get to make it 23 from here on out. Who knows?
I'm proud as well of the team because when you're in one of those long unbeaten runs, you can sometimes get bogged down by that idea. It's like, we don't want to lose the unbeaten run, so we're not going to risk everything in the final 10 minutes to go for the win. Yeah. I'm proud that when we
think about that, though?
Yeah. I do. I think with as much as we see Leao, looking at comps and the players liking tweets on Twitter, like I think they're thinking about all of it. I mean, they're all younger than us. If we're thinking about it, they have a little bit of a kid in them.
We're fans. I mean, like they're fans as well, but like, I don't know.
I know that I thought about it every single day when I was 25. Like, what can this team do? And they actually play for the team. They're thinking about it. So
when you were 25, you spent every day thinking about this team.
Probably, yeah.
That's
It's
nice.
been a rough year.
It
One,
probably was. When was I don't know, so long ago.
One season, Huddersfield went 43 games unbeaten, and it was like second longest ever in English football. And we had by far the best squad in the league, and we should have been automatically promoted. But by the end of it, by the end of that run, I think we'd drawn 8 of 10 games to then lose the unbeaten run. And it's like you lose a lot of. I think you lose a lot of your cutting edge if you've got that fear in the back of your mind that you might lose a game by going for the win. And I think that hindered us. And obviously, it's on a slightly smaller scale with 22 games. But I'm just, as I say, proud that the team still went for it after equalising. And we're like, no, we can arsehole these because they're crap. And we'll do them in the away game with a full-strength squad. No doubt in my mind. I think we're a better team.
Yeah, game at a time.
Yeah, tops and flops. Top for me, Teo Hernandez. He was fantastic. He put it on a plate a couple of times for Olivier Giroud, who I hope to have done better with a couple of headers. And then when he did pull it back to him, pinpoint, bang. Reminded me of like the second Sassuolo goal when we clinched the league title. But yeah, the cut back, and that was from Leao that time. But yeah, thumped it into the net. Bang.
I mean, can I say Cavra? It's Teo. It's got to be Teo. He had the assist on a great goal. Everything all I just said. I mean, you could say Giroud because it was a good goal, and he would have had a otherworldly assist had Clue have scored that second one. So I guess Giroud's got a good case for it. I don't know. I think CDK is not deserving of it, but I do think we should highlight how good of a game he had and the mistakes that went to him and how unlucky he got because of the passes he received. When he was in possession, he did great. But yeah, I don't know. I guess Teo.
I'm gonna go Giroud because of how many chances he missed in the first half. In order to put that away, he deserves it.
Yeah. I'm going Giroud as well.
Okay.
What? We're doing tops, yeah?
Yeah. Giroud. He deserves a top spot.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't sure.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't quite get the concept. I'm going Giroud as well. I thought even like his hold-up play, knockdowns and stuff like that, second half were brilliant, especially when we were sort of riding that high after the equaliser. He was just a demon, man. Like Kim and Ramadi, whatever his name is. They were struggling to keep sort of, but he was getting the better of them, strength, and he just seemed to be sort of giving us the extra edge in attack without Leao being there. So I'm gonna go with Giroud.
Yeah, I thought that was perhaps Giroud's best start of the season, to be honest, and it's when I expected it least because obviously he started. I think that was his 7th start in a row,
crazy,
which is quite a difficult ask at 35 years of age.
One thing worth pointing out is Benacer had a higher rating than Lobotka, so we can end that debate right there.
Don't tell Napoli.
I must say, I thought Lobotka
he was great though.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he was really good. He was 7.8 and Benacer had a 7.9. So.
There are a lot of players that I think Napoli have that aren't necessarily household names, but they are very good at this level and very functional for a 4-3-3, like Zielinski. I mean, what a player he's been in this league for the last 3 or 4 years. When you bring off Simeone off the bench, it kind of exposed to me where we're at with our squad. It's like they've got 3 out-and-out number 9s that they can field in Raspadori's, Osimhen when he's fit, and then obviously Simeone. And here we are, like, having to wheel out Giroud every single game because everyone else is dead. Flop of the match is Serginho Dest. Obvious reasons.
Yeah, I have no issues with saying that. I mean,
one thing I will say to just sort of add a bit of balance to it, the contact that was made was not enough for Kvaratskhelia to go down the way that he did. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a penalty. It was a penalty. The contact was there, but it was exaggerated reaction that I think is probably what made the VAR review happen. That's
footballing IQ. You got to know when to take those.
And there are people saying he didn't need to swing a leg like that. Personally, I think he did because otherwise he's past him. He's past him, and it's a cutback for a goal anyway. So, yeah, that's the Maddie.
Des, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Like a few Englishmen in our chat who like to pretend they're Italian. Dest is a Dutchman who likes to pretend who's an American. So really, Americans, we don't claim him as one of ours, but
Are you an Everton fan pretending to be a Milan one?
Look, there's one right here. I didn't know that he was in this podcast.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, fair enough. The two old bastards at the bottom. I'm not going to go for Dest because I because you lot all went for Dest. So I'm going to go for Salamakers because I thought he was pretty trash up front.
Well, it's a league game. He's only good in the League of Champions.
Mr.
true.
UCL.
Mr. UCL. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll just say about Lobotka, yeah, really impressed by him. I don't see an issue with this whole. I know it's a Twitter thing, Benacer versus Lobotka. They're both really good centre midfielders. I don't issue if it's more like this whole Tonali versus Locatelli thing. Locatelli for me is basic, and Tonali is really an amazing centre midfielder. So I get disgusted about the sort of comparisons I see with players like them. Lobotka and Benacer, I've got no issue. One game might have a better than the other, but yeah, it's just when you're comparing just trash and like Merritt and Mignon, like Jesus Christ, man.
Merritt had a great game though.
Yeah,
had a great game.
Yeah, but like in general, man, Jesus, come on, man.
Yeah, in general, Mignon's the best in the league.
He's is like just an oversized otter. Like I'm not buying that, man.
Also, Handanovic is a statue at this stage.
Yes.
Oh yeah, true. To be fair, the goalkeeping clientele in Italy is not all that to be screamed about. But
yeah. Right, we'll do a couple of listener questions then before we round off, since we don't have a game to preview. Rohit first up asks, or rather, he says that he feels the team needs a creative winger more than a striker. Thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think that's been like a secret. You know, I don't think anyone is like hearing that thing. Oh wow, yeah. Like,
but is it our creativity that's struggling, or is it our actually fucking finishing?
I think our finishing's struggling.
Because Messia said it played through to him with a delicious through ball from CDK when he sort of, like shimmied to the right, put him with a slip through. Messia
and that was a great save by Merritt. That was a great save.
Come on, man. No. It was straight down at him. It was hit pretty weak. It's fucking...
That was quick.
I think it's our finishing.
He had the right idea, I think, going back across.
The right idea, but the execution should have been a bit more, man. Just hit it with a bit of fucking...
Hit it higher even, maybe, but you can't criticise that when I told Kalulu to go low for that one-on-one. But yeah, I thought overall Merritt had a good game.
Yeah. It's finishing for me. But yeah, we do need something on the right. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's the spot you want to address before you address anything else. Like, I understand the call for another striker, given... You know, the only one we have fit is 36, 37 now. And then you got a 42-year-old who's been injured for 9 months. And you got Origi who's played 3 games and he's been injured already. You got Rebic who's injured already. Like, I understand the call for it. But I do think a better right winger would serve us overall.
I feel like
they're still contributing somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, our 37-year-old striker is as well, but
he's not.
He had
35.
20 shots.
Oh, okay. Whatever.
We had 22 shots that game. 20
Something
shots.
Like that,
yeah.
Imagine if we had more than 5 on target.
I don't know how many we did have on target.
Didn't we have like
we had 5 on target?
7, I think we had. Oh, we had 5.
We had 5.
Oh, you know, yeah, it was 5 on target and then the two post.
I think the thing about the centre forward question is people are generally accepting that we haven't had much luck so far with Origi's injury, and then Rebic had a good game in the false 9 role against Udinese, and then has been wiped out since. And I think that after the break, things obviously need to change. We need to be able to rotate in that position to keep things fresh. Whereas with the right winger thing, it is very obvious that we've got 2 inconsistent players there. And that is a very obvious area where we should be upgrading rather than just relying on a bit of injury luck. There was an article yesterday saying it was still looking at potentially signing Marco Asensio or Hakim Ziyech. Those links are going to keep going 100%. My personal opinion is that it might actually be a player that we haven't even heard of yet that arrives to reinforce the right
we just got linked with some Norwegian.
Gustav Isaacson, not sure about having a player with Isaac in the name, but you know that's more a personal vendetta than anything else. But he was the one who ripped Lazio apart for FC Midtjylland in the Europa League. But are we in a position to sign another player who's a project? You know, do we need someone who is a guarantee in terms of quality in that role? For example, I watched Real Madrid and I watch Asensio quite a bit ever since there's been the links, and he is such a bizarre player in the sense that he doesn't even get on the ball that much, but he scores these goals out of nowhere. And it's like,
can he recreate that for us? Like Origi did that with Liverpool.
That's fair.
And we haven't even come close to seeing.
But we're just saying that creating the chances. And
but even when he's been on the field, like he's looked like dog shit.
I don't think he's looked like dog shit, but his finishing has been
he
bad.
has not looked very good.
No, he hasn't. No, he's looked selfish more than anything. Like,
I think if you've got it in you to put away shots, you'll still put away shots. Like, and you could be put in those positions. Like Asensio. Yeah.
So what's going on with Piontek? Because he has the ability to put away those shots, but he's not doing it.
Yeah, because he's at fucking Salernitana. Like,
didn't he score against
Farmer
Juve
on the right wing?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he scored against Juve.
Yeah, he scored a penalty though. But yeah, like, I don't know.
Piontek,
Like,
Piontek.
I personally think we need a player that can take on a man on the right side.
Yep.
Simple as.
Andrew Mahakata asks, this defeat has been coming. Any plans on a dependable 20-goal striker in January? Now, we kind of talked about the striker issue, but since it got mentioned, who are we going for next summer? Because we do need a new long-term number 9.
Erling Haaland.
Yeah, okay. Any more realistic answers?
I got one that's not going to sound realistic, but it is. Susan Vlahovic.
Vlahovic.
Yeah,
I don't see Juve selling him.
Well, let me paint the picture for you. Okay, Jerry's going to want to spend a little bit now that he actually gets a window that's all his. And Juve's going to need to sell because they're on the verge of sacking Allegri, who has like a 50 million severance pay clause in his contract. They can't afford that. Where they're looking now, they're trending to not get Champions League. If they're not in the knockout stages either, they're going to have to sell something. And who's going to want to leave? Well, the guy that's only been there for 9 months and isn't seeing the best. Plus, they got Pogba on their wages.
Join the podcast because that was a beautiful painting.
Oh, thank you. I was like, what are you talking about? But I'll take that. Thank you. Yeah, you got Pogba, who's on high wages. You got Di Maria. You got Szczesny, who's one of the highest paid players in the league, and he hasn't even played this season. You got Bonucci. I mean, they have like the majority of the top 20 highest paid players. They're going to have to sell. They're not going to be able to do anything. And we wanted him before he went to Juve anyways. We wanted to wait till the summer, and he wanted to go in January. So, it's not going to cost what it costs them to buy him because, A, the amortization of his contract. So there's knock 20 mil off it right there one season in. Now you're looking at maybe a cut deal, a loan with option to buy at 45, something like that. I don't know.
They ain't gonna do business with us like that, man. This is Juventus.
We do business with them all the time. We got Higuain.
Yeah, because we
used
to be the bitches in that regard. They're not. They've learned from us being like that. They are not going to do anything like that to us a favor unless we pay more than what they paid for it. Because Juventus are like that.
Dude, Juve are fucking snakes, man. It's like the mafia of Serie A.
No, that's Napoli.
Exactly.
That's where it's from.
Yeah, no, that's the city of Napoli. That's
No, yes, Juve definitely are a bad club.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that one.
All right.
There's
that note,
point of the day.
Let's wrap it up.
I think we're signing a centre forward from abroad. We're not getting him from Italy.
I think that's dangerous though, because I want someone who's proven in the league. Bringing someone in from out of the league, it takes time to adapt.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Jonathan David started off quite well again this year.
Is he? I saw links of
5 goals,
again,
2
but I
assists
haven't.
in 8 games.
No, I saw it. That's really solid. Who's
played
though?
Canadians in here. Get Canadians because the Americans aren't doing shit.
Yeah, but none of you, man.
We have a Dutchman.
No, but back on David, who's he scored against? Has he played any of the big French teams yet, or no? I really haven't watched any.
Are there any big French teams? That's another thing. He's good though. He'd fit the mold. He's mobile and he can also play wide if needed. I mean, Nkunku's going to be. Nkunku's going to be the big sweepstakes. I think for next summer, given that there's a release clause still, and he's started like a house on fire again for Leipzig. I'd like us to be in those sweepstakes, but I think the deal is, it's going to be wages, isn't it? It's who can offer the best package to him and his agent, and we can't offer the big wages at the moment. No. So I see the striker that we signed being a bit of a gamble in some way.
Just looking at Jonathan David, his Lille side lost 7-1 against PSG, and he played all 90 minutes, no goals, got a yellow card.
I mean, in the day, man, their team's been decimated.
Again, he's a striker.
Man.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm just like to do on defense.
Nah, I just was looking at it and I was like, wow, that's a result. That's all.
Lille's been decimated. We know that because we've helped to decimate the side. Like,
yeah,
at the end of the day, like, and then he's got 2 years left in his contract come the summer. I think it's and then we've obviously
It's
had
a good time for it. Yeah,
chances to talk to it. Yeah, I think he'd probably be a favourite. And yeah, I think we'll probably look around the other European leagues.
Now,
Holland,
Okafor has been mentioned.
Okafor,
For me, that's a risk from Salzburg, but there's plenty of players
who have cost risk.
There's plenty of players who've left Salzburg and gone on to do all right. Mane, Haaland, Szoboszlai, Keita. There's plenty of them. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I think it's a name that maybe hasn't been mentioned just yet. I saw someone mention Ivan Toney the other day, and I like that. That's a good shout, but. It's whether
I like it as well.
It's whether he'd want to leave to come abroad when really his aim is to get some minutes for England. Next question comes from Ovar. How long do you see Pioli staying at Milan? And this can be the last question. We get this every now and again, and it's a tough one, isn't it? And we never know the real answer to it because it's like when he was originally hired, it was meant to be for 8 months or whatever, and it ended up becoming something bigger than that to the extent that we ripped up an agreement with Ralph Rangnick. And now he's here. I don't think any of us want him to leave anytime soon because he keeps making us unpredictable. He keeps improving players individually. We look stronger as a collective, and we've still got things that we need to tick off. We need to get into the Champions League knockout stages. We need to win the Italian Cup, maybe defend the Scudetto.
So we need to do those things. If we don't do those things, when does his job come into question? If we don't make it to the round of 16, if we don't make it to the cup final, do you start
we've
to
lost
think,
one game. Like,
no,
he's fine.
Matty Watson gone.
No, I'm talking about the you have to think.
I understand.
If we start dropping points, start losing games, But
I'm not talking about the league. I'm talking about Champions League and cup. The thing is, in my opinion, if we don't make it out of the out of the groups for the Champions League again, is it the team or is it Pioli? It's a big missed
opportunity.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And it hasn't happened yet, and so we really can't know if it's if the team's fucking up on the field, it's the team, but it's also Pioli for not getting them prepared. So, I think that if we don't make it out of the round of 6 or the group stage, if I was him, I might be shaking my boots a little bit.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I get what you're saying. I think with Pioli, he came in with the idea of being there for 8 months, and the question was, is this the guy that's going to stop our downward spiral? After the Giampaolo era, and then all of a sudden it became, is this the guy to get us back in the Champions League spots? And then it was, is this the guy that we could win a Scudetto under? And then it's, is this the guy that we can make it to the knockouts of the Champions League under? Like, Pioli's done a great job on moving the goalpost higher and higher each time. But the question is this the guy that's going to win everything for us? And probably not, but he could be, But it's hard to say, like, this is how long he's going to stay, because we haven't seen bad from him. So I have no issues with.
There's layers to the question because is this the owners that are going to allow us to win the Champions League?
Is this when the squad that's going to score enough?
That's the thing. And I'm sorry, but a coach is only as good as the squad that he's got at his disposal. And many coaches around the world, you can see, and that's evidence of that. This, personally, regards to Pioli, is the best coach we've had since Carlo Ancelotti. And when I talk about the way we play football and the journey we've taken, and that's the truth. You can talk about Allegri. He had a strong side. We played okay football with him. We probably
pretty boring.
It was pretty boring, and you're seeing that right now with Juventus. He's a boring coach. I love the way Pioli plays football. I love the way he develops players. I love the way he fits with his current project. If things were to change with the project and we were able to spend hundreds of million euros window to window, and he still wasn't delivering, then yes, that's a conversation to be had. But we don't know what that timeline's going to be for as far along as it could be. He keeps changing the goalposts, as you say, perfectly. We're a stud domestically in the Champions League, in the Serie A. In the Champions League, we have to be seen, but that's also down to our coefficiency because we got a hard group last year, but this year we got a good opportunity to get through the group because we got first place in the league, which has made us to be a seed one side. So if we don't take this opportunity, I'll be really gutted. But that's not a sackable offence. It would be a disappointment, but it's not a sackable offence. And then the Coppa Italia semi-finals.
This is only our second year in a row in Champions League.
Exactly.
But when does it become? When does it become a sackable offense? Because next year we finish second, third, or fourth.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're still in Champions League.
Yeah.
The winnings don't change that much.
I would say the only
we're in
metric
a
we
bad
can
group
we
again.
could we could say I would say the only metric I would say that is potentially worthy to go on a new coach is if the team was upgrading and still was
the points aren't
window
getting
to
higher.
window and we didn't
Yeah.
get top 4.
Yeah,
Top 4 was the metric for me to get sacked.
We finished
we
fourth
can't
and then
wait.
first. Like we can make
We
the big
can't
jump.
wait until we finish outside of top 4 to look for a better manager.
Yeah, but I also don't think we need to be looking
top
right
4
now.
is not the ultimate goal. To win Champions League is the ultimate goal.
But
Ultimate being 3-5 years.
Right.
And that's what Maldini said. He said that this team's 5 to 8 years out.
And as Stefano
we're ahead
rightly
of
said,
track.
the squad has got to be there to do that. Like we're all realistic fans. Of course, we want the end goal to be winning our 8th Champions League and then a 9th and 10th. But we're realistic enough to know that we are not close to that at the moment.
Exactly.
We could get lucky with our draw for the knockout stages if we get there, and who knows, we might even make it to a semi. I mean, if you look at, didn't Malaga do it one year?
Yeah.
Monaco did it.
Tottenham made it to the final.
Yeah.
Ajax was in that semi too. Like
Pochettino's available actually for when we sack Pioli in a couple of weeks.
No thanks. No, and we also play the most modern football in Italy, and very close to the most modern in the Champions League outside of the main big clubs right now.
Are you not entertained by the football you're seeing right now? Regardless, like last night, we lost last night.
I think that Pioli is going to be here for years to come. But I mean, like, if we struggle to make top 4, if we don't get out of group stages, we can't be like, oh, he won us the Scudetto. Great. It's like, well, maybe we did spend money this summer, money that we normally don't spend, questions have to be asked. And to just turn a blind eye to it would be naive.
No, I agree. I think he'll be here until at least 2026, 2027, at least.
That's maybe a long tenure. I don't know about. I'd say maybe like 3 or 4 full seasons. Is this his second?
I think right now he's our longest serving manager since Allegri, right? Like he's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he's probably close to passing.
He'll overtake him. Yeah, pretty soon.
I think at least he'll get like 7 years at this.
The power of continuity.
The thing is, like,
really hard to
predict. No one that I'd rather have than him at this moment.
I mean, Pep, that's about it, but it's not realistic.
I mean, Sean Dyche is available.
You're right, man. The power of continuity, and I said this towards the start of last season, is so powerful because everyone changed their coaches last year, and we fucking killed it. And we'll do it again this year because they're, look at Juventus and Inter. They're about to probably sack their coaches in a couple of weeks' time if these performances continue. And they're still going through these phases of year 0.
If we're the cause of Allegri getting fired, I would be so happy.
I can't wait to play
them. That would be full circle, that wouldn't it?
I can't wait to play
The only scary thing is Tuchel's available. Can Inter or Juve afford that? Probably not.
Apparently,
will they go for it?
Yeah. Juve are waiting for Conte because he's probably not going to sign a renewal with Spurs, and I mean that would just be very like them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, to go back to their old manager, like.
Yeah.
So
on brand.
I think they only sign like Italian coaches, isn't it? Someone said so. I think it was. I think I listened to IFTV. They say last time they hired a foreign coach was like in 70s or something like that. Before.
Yeah.
No, was it? No. Was it Deschamps in the 90s? I can't remember. But before that, it was the 70s or something like that. So like they traditionally always get Italian coaches. So
you got to remember as well, Zidane is linked to that club, and that may
all the time though. He's also
thing.
linked to France.
No, I mean he's like linked as in he played there once, and will that become a thing that gathers steam in years to come? Like, could he be the one who breaks the run? Don't know. Anyway, we've overrun here a little bit, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you to everyone who made it this far. Please drop a like and a comment. If you're listening on YouTube, and drop us a review if you're listening via, because it really helps us out in terms of reaching more people. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, thank you for joining.
Yep, always a pleasure. We will be back during the international break, so definitely still tune in next week. Turn those notifications on so you get the videos. And we got Madison.
Yeah, I forgot to do it at the beginning of the podcast, but there is now an AC Milan club, Detroit. So any Detroiters out there who listen, follow them on Twitter. I was not there this week, but apparently they had a watch party, so I'll be there against Empoli. And follow me on Twitter at Edward__Toth. And we got Steph.
Cool. Yeah, pleasure to be back on. Like I said before, if any plans are going to the London game for Chelsea versus Milan, maybe put in the comment section. Yeah, we'll stay in touch.
I'll
And
drop us a tweet.
Be able to have the privilege to meet me and Mr. Fisher and tell us how we know nothing about football. But
to our face. Say it to our face.
I wish it was me.
Yeah,
as long as you don't hate Calabria, then we'll be on fine.
Christian's gonna show up.
Thank you very much for listening, everybody, and we will catch you in a week's time.
Eccolo Ante in area di rigore, Ante, Ibra, gol! Vediamo se è buono, ce lo dà buono.